The standoff at London's Ecuadorian embassy continues. The WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has spent the night at the embassy where he's seeking political asylum. And now he's facing arrest for breaching bail conditions. Those conditions are that he stays at home overnight.
Mr Assange is fighting extradition to Sweden. His supporters say that if he is sent to Sweden, the United States will then try to extradite him for espionage. But the Foreign Minister Bob Carr has dismissed that argument.
There has been no hint of an American interest in doing this. In theory, it could not be ruled out, but it just strikes me as curious that if the Americans wanted to extradite him, they'd have every opportunity to extradite him from the United Kingdom, where he's been for some years. There's an extradition treaty, I understand, between the United States and the United Kingdom, and indeed there's some legal advice that it would be easier for America to do it with the United Kingdom than with the government of Sweden.
Bob Carr, well, our correspondent Lisa Miller is outside the embassy in London. Lisa, good morning to you. Has there been any movement there over the course of the day?
Well, there's been a lot of movement, but nothing from within the embassy, Michael. I've been here off and on for the last 12 hours, and I can tell you there was quite a media pack. There were also about a dozen supporters of Julian Assange's who turned up, many of them who are still here, starting to play their guitars. They're clearly in for the long haul. Julian Assange had a few visitors during the day as well. Some of them spoke to the media as they left, saying that he's holding up well. He's feeling very grateful for the support and generosity from the Ecuadorians inside the embassy. They're treating him very well. And another friend of his who is a human rights lawyer and once advised him, Jennifer Robinson, she spent quite a bit of the day inside, and she's told the ABC that what he did was not an act of desperation, that it was not something that was done in the heat of the moment. So not a lot of detail yet about this very complex story, but a little bit of an idea about why we've got to this point.
OK, well, he's holed up inside there. What is the latest, Lisa, if any, on the status of negotiations between Julian Assange and the Ecuadorian government?
Well, the negotiations are also between the Ecuadorian government and the UK and the US and Sweden, because they've said as they process this, they are going to discuss things with those other governments. There's no history to something like this. This is why everyone's a bit clueless as to how long it actually might occur. People have been going back through the history books and pulling out cases where people have spent 15 years inside an embassy seeking political asylum. So there's no answers that make it simple for people when they're watching this. The process has begun. Ecuador put out another statement today saying stressing their human rights tradition, but also again saying that they weren't going to interfere with the processes of the UK and Sweden. So you take it from that they're sort of hedging their bets as well while this occurs. One of the things people keep asking about is why Ecuador. Jennifer Robinson, when the ABC spoke to her, said that it was a lot to do with that interview a couple of months ago between the President of Ecuador and Julian Assange, that there had been very warm relations during that interview, but she also said that offers had come from Tunisia as well. So Ecuador was not the only country that was being talked about as a possible place for a safe haven.
Gee, he's a man in demand. Now, we spoke yesterday, Lisa, about the possibly tricky exit if asylum was granted from the embassy to Heathrow or another airport there in London. We know now that London police are after Julian Assange for breaching his bail conditions. That would make that exit, that journey from the embassy to any airport, that much more fraught.
Well, as you heard from that former legal advisor to the Foreign Office at the top of the program, that basically if he gets in an embassy car and drives away from this embassy and then gets out of it, he will be arrested. We've seen police turn up at various times during the day. A couple of them have actually gone inside the building and then come out again very quickly. We've asked them what they're doing here. They don't give us any hints, but Metropolitan Police did certainly put out that statement about 12 hours ago now, saying that he's broken the bail conditions, which were that he had to stay in a particular address from 10 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next morning, every night. So at 10:20 last night in London, Metropolitan Police were alerted that Julian Assange had broken bail. And of course that then raises all those questions about the money and the friends and supporters who put up that money, about 350,000 Australian dollars, and whether they'll ever get that back.
Lisa Miller in London. We'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.